OK, let's get straight into today's story, shall we? Opposition leader Kemi Badenoch has urged the Prime Minister to review hate crime laws in order to protect free speech. Her intervention follows controversy over a police investigation into the Telegraph journalist Allison Pearson over a tweet she posted a year ago. It's also been revealed children as young as 9 are being investigated by police for non-crime hate incidents, including insults in the playground. I kid you not, I'm not making this up, seriously. But joining me now, because he is here, I can see him, is former Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley. Peter, I'm reading this story out. Sorry, Fringe, sorry. And I can't believe what I'm reading. This is a tweet that was put out a year ago and is being investigated now for either a non-crime hate incident or a racist incident now. What do you make of this story? It's insane.
British policing has got itself into a dreadful, appalling mess. Not just over non-crime hate incidents, but so many other aspects of policing that have simply fallen away and not done properly. And what it consequently means is that free speech is being attacked in many ways, and victims of crime are being repeatedly and appallingly failed. This incident here with Allison Pearson, from what we know is actually pretty much not in dispute, is that when the police officers turned up on Sunday morning, Remembrance Sunday, they told her that there was an investigation, but she asked two very important questions. Who is the complainant or the victim, call them what you will, and what is the allegation? And she was told neither of those things.
Do police have to tell you that? I mean, I thought if they are investigating you, they have to tell you why they're investigating you at the very least.
And what for? When you arrest somebody, you don't just tell them you're being arrested, you have to tell them what they are being arrested for. Therefore, when you turn up at somebody's front door and tell them they're being investigated, you should tell them exactly what they are being arrested for. There are countless examples, sadly, out there in the world of social media of police behaving unprofessionally, appallingly, and quite often pathetically. They are undertrained, they've scraped to the bottom of the barrel in terms of recruiting, so often with a lack of vetting so they don't get suitable people, and consequently years, almost a couple of decades of senior policing roles being full of the wokerati academic types that wanted to get away from the front line of policing as quickly as they could. This is what you get. You reap what you sow.
The problem you've got here, Essex Police have set up a gold group, which is usually reserved for dealing with major crimes to handle this investigation now. But in the meantime, people who live in Essex are saying you're not even nicking drug dealers on the streets.
Don't worry about Essex. This morning alone, I've spoken to 2 people who have been involved in crime. One, the victim of an attempted robbery. The other person, a well-meaning member of the public who tried to report to police a violent and threatening drunk. And on both those occasions, they've had appalling service. In fact, no kind of service. Policing is in crisis. Until we get these clowns out of the senior rank, until people in policing get promoted on merit, until they start promoting leaders and not managers, until somebody gets a grip that policing is a service that should serve the public and not itself, this nonsense, this appalling nonsense, is simply going to continue.
Very, very strong words there, Peter. Thank you very much. You're staying with us for this debate. It's been my panel on this, Jonathan Liss and Duncan Brecht. What do you make of this story? I mean, initially, Alison was under the impression it was a non-crime hate incident. Essex Police, that's because she lives in Essex, have now said, no, we are investigating her under a criminal charge of racial hatred, which Alison obviously clearly denies. And I've seen the tweet and I can't work it out either. But what do you make? This is a year ago, Jonathan. Meanwhile, drug dealers are quite just walk out. Friends and family live in Essex, walk in the streets. Not you dial 999. You're lucky if you get a response.
Well, one thing I would agree with Peter on off the bat is that it seems to be a lot easier for police to trawl through social media than actually go on the streets. And that's why you have these ridiculous prosecutions that are taking place of people who say things on Twitter that sort of, in a previous generation, people would have said in a crowded pub, and they might not be very clever things or very nice things, but I don't think they meet the criminal bar necessarily. I do think that we need to have hate crimes in this country, hate crime legislation, I should say, in this country. I think that people should
Which we have.
Right, and I think that people should be prosecuted if they breach those laws.
Quite agree.
And that Twitter is, for example, is a different style of platform, and people haven't quite understood this about the internet. It does count as publishing something. It's not the same as saying something in a crowded pub, and that's a difficulty that we have, because I can just type something on my phone and press send, and it's like I wrote it in a book, with the equivalent kind of legal threshold that meets. But having said all that, I completely disagree with most of what comes out of Allison Pearson's mouth. I think that she has made deeply inflammatory comments.
Right
she has. Look, I think that she has the right to say things that I would consider Islamophobic, provided that she's not. That doesn't cross the kind of the hate crime threshold. Now, the tweet that we seem to be talking about, according to the Guardian, is where she looked at a photograph of 3 protesters with a flag that is actually the flag of the mainstream Pakistani political party, posing with police officers, and called those people Jew haters based on the fact that they're posing with this flag. Now, in my book, that is a racist tweet. Now, should it be permissible? I think that people might have been, if she had been targeting those people individually, I think they would have had a very good grounds to sue her in a court of law, because that is obviously would be defamation or libel, potentially. Now, should it be a criminal matter? That's a different issue. And the person who complained is not one of the people who were called Jew haters in this particular tweet. So I think it is murky. I'm not sure that I certainly wouldn't agree with the police getting involved in the way they do. And if police are going to come to your door, they need to tell you immediately what you are being accused of.
But there's another part of this story, isn't there? Which is, someone pointed out that her tweet was incorrect because of the flag.
Yes.
She deleted it.
Which is why she deleted it straight away.
She deleted it soon after, and then a year down the line, she gets a knock at the door from Essex Nick. So, I mean, she deleted the tweet that caused offence in the first place. Is that not relevant?
I think it is relevant whether you delete something, yes. Look, as I say, the laws we have on Twitter and social media probably need to be revised, because at the moment they fall under broad publication laws, as though you've written it in a magazine. And sometimes I think that if you publish something very stupid, you delete it after 10 minutes, I don't think that you should go to jail for it. Let's put it that way.
There's also an issue with how do you define hate? I mean, for me, that is the biggest question. What is hate? And you brilliantly, a few moments ago, Jonathan, talked about the kind of conversation you might have in a pub. Some people talked about banter. Banter can cross the line. I was reading in the Times earlier, they've got a piece today where they've contacted various police forces around England to kind of like find out the kind of cases they've been looking at. And there was a case of someone in Wales who complained to the police in Wales about a social media posting referring to a Welshman, and I have to use careful words here.
Yes, I saw that
with a fondness for sheep in a physical way.
Yes.
Well, why are the police wasting their time with that? Is that genuine hate? Yeah. Is that banter? And I think that actually is the nub of this.
Yeah, it is banter, isn't it? And the reason we're talking about this story has been going on all week, and Allison has been under investigation, but has not been charged, by the way, which is an interesting point for this criminal charge, because Kemi Badenoch has come out now and said that hate crime laws must be reviewed to protect free speech, and Boris Johnson has attacked it in his column in the Mail today, saying the thought police in Keir Starmer's Britain, and compared it to the Soviet Union at its
This is completely nonsense, Dawn. This is so typical of Johnson. Everything that the police have done, they could have done under the previous Conservative government. The Labour Party has not rewritten the rules of policing in the last 5 months. The police, quite rightly, have operational independence. Now, obviously, the government can change the law if it sees fit, but anything that the police are doing, they could have done under Boris Johnson, and I'm sure they did as well.
And Yvette Cooper today, again, moving the story on, is committed to making it easier to report non-crime hate instances, especially if they relate to anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Duncan?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why she said that, and I think that takes the whole issue rightly to the extremes.
Do we need tougher laws?
I don't think we need tougher laws. personally. I think it's in danger of shutting up freedom of speech. But I think the majority of people watching GB News this lunchtime will be thinking, hang on a second, and this echoes what Peter said earlier. I pay vast amounts of tax, council tax in most cases for this, to fund my local police force, right? People go into the shop and nick 199 quid's worth of goods. Police never turn up. The security guards are told, don't tackle them. You know, someone's car gets nicked, no one comes and sees you. Someone's house gets broken into, you get a crime number. That's what people pay their taxes for that kind of policing, not for someone to sit in front of a laptop and go, oh, actually, that's a bit extreme. Now, let's discuss
I'm going to agree with both of you, gentlemen. And you and I, Jonathan, are not renowned for agreeing on very much whatsoever, right? When you say it is easier for somebody to sit behind a laptop, scrolling through social media, whether they be police officer or police civilian employee, you're absolutely right. It's a lot harder than the dirty, grubby work of rolling around on pavements with violent shoplifters, drug dealers, burglars, car thieves and the like. And that kind of policing, of which there is a considerable amount, but not enough, requires courage, commitment, and you've got to be a dedicated public servant to do it. But too many are behind desks. Too many senior police officers have created this social service out of police services rather than having police forces. They think that dealing with all of society's ills is their job. They used to have a nonsense expression, with a service that doesn't say no. Well, the police service has to learn to say no so it can say yes to getting out on the streets and doing the policing that the public wants.
Why did it change, Peter? When did it change?
Because of the wokerati, liberal-leaning senior police officers who all toddled off to university to get their letters after their names
so is that a
instead of in front of their
names. Is that
names.
The last 14 years of government? When did it...
1997, when Blair said education, 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 ambitious police officers went, we'll have a bit of that. Some of them went to university out of the public purse. Others have gone there at their own expense, because if you wanted to get promoted, you had to have those letters after your name. And they bought in to all the kind of ideology and so much of the nonsense that bounces around some of our universities. And they brought back this liberal, left-leaning, fluffy kind of attitude, which has meant policing has been dragged in that direction, rather than standing up, polishing its boots, ironing its trousers and getting out there on the streets to nick bad people.
I think that we can
unfortunately, we've run out of time. Sorry,
that's a
Jonathan.
shame,
Sorry,
Dawn.
thank you very much. Now, on the investigation into Allison Pearson, a spokesperson for Essex Police has said officers went to a residential address to arrange a time to do an interview with a woman about a complaint made by a member of the public. That's why, under the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984, no further information was provided. This call was made by officers who were in the area at the time to simply set up a time to speak in the coming days. At no stage during the short interaction between the woman and our officers was she informed that the report being investigated was being treated as a non-crime hate incident. To suggest otherwise is wholly inaccurate and misleading. As the public would expect, we have body-worn video of this interaction, which entirely supports our position in this respect. Well, that's what they've got to say. What do you think, though? Do you agree with what Peter said? Very, very strong words. Do you agree with what Jonathan said and what Duncan said? Let me know. gbnews.com/your say, and you can make a comment about my fringe as well if you really want. This is GB News.